Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad is not just a book about money, it's a book about thinking differently. It's about how two men, both influential in his life, taught him opposing philosophies about wealth, work, and life. One was his biological father, his poor dad, an educated man who believed in hard work, job security, and climbing the corporate ladder. The other, his best friend's father, his rich dad, was a high school dropout who built multiple successful businesses and saw the world through a very different lens. Both men were intelligent, both were successful in their own way, but only one became wealthy. Kiyosaki's real revelation came when he realized that financial success isn't just about what you earn, it's about how you think. It's about your beliefs, your habits, and your relationship with money. Rich Dad didn't teach him to chase money. He taught him to understand how money works and how to make it work for you. Poor Dad, like most people, believed the path to wealth was through education, employment, and promotions. Rich Dad believed the path was through financial education, investment, and ownership. This audiobook isn't just a summary, it's a breakdown of 6 powerful money rules inspired by Rich Dad's philosophy. These rules challenge everything most people are taught about success. They're not complicated, but they require a shift in mindset, a willingness to see the world differently, to take responsibility for your financial future, and to stop waiting for permission to build wealth. Whether you're working a 9-to-5 job, running a side hustle, or just starting to think seriously about money, the principles in this summary will help you think like the rich and act with intention. You don't need to be born into wealth to build it, but you do need to learn what the rich teach their kids that the poor and middle class do not. Let's dive into the 6 rules of money that can change your life, if you're ready to change your mindset. Rule 1. The rich don't work for money. From a young age, we're taught that the key to success is to get a good education, find a stable job, and work hard for a paycheck. This formula is passed down by parents, reinforced by schools, and echoed throughout society. But according to Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, this mindset is exactly what keeps most people stuck in financial struggle. His first and most important lesson is this: the rich don't work for money. At first, that statement seems backwards. Isn't working for money the whole point of having a job? Isn't money what we all need more of? Kiyosaki's insight, however, isn't that the rich don't value money, it's that they understand money differently. They see it as a tool, not a reward. They don't chase paychecks, they build systems, invest in assets, and create income streams that work for them, even when they're not working. Kiyosaki learned this from observing 2 father figures. His biological father, the poor dad, was highly educated and worked in the traditional system. He had a steady job and lived paycheck to paycheck. His best friend's father, the rich dad, was a businessman and investor who never relied on a job to make money. He focused on building wealth through ownership, leverage, and strategic thinking. This contrast shaped Kiyosaki's worldview. The poor dad believed that job security was the goal. The rich dad believed that financial independence was the goal. And the first step toward independence was to stop thinking like an employee and start thinking like an owner. The rich don't trade time for money. They trade ideas, value, and strategy for income that continues whether they're working or not. The rat race explained how most people get stuck. The concept of the rat race is central to Kiyosaki's teachings, and it's something most people are never even aware they're trapped in. The rat race is the endless cycle of working hard, earning a paycheck, paying bills, and repeating the process month after month, year after year. It gives the illusion of progress but keeps people financially stuck. The cycle often begins with well-intentioned advice, go to school, get good grades, and find a secure job. Once employed, people begin earning a consistent income, and that's where the pattern sets in. With income comes spending. A better apartment, a car, clothes, vacations. Then come credit cards, student loans, car payments, and mortgages. The more they earn, the more they spend. It becomes a lifestyle driven by obligation, not freedom. What keeps people in the rat race is fear of losing their job, of being broke, of not being able to provide for their families. And because most people were never taught financial literacy, they don't know there's a way out. They assume the only solution is to work harder or earn more. But as Kiyosaki points out, even people with high incomes, doctors, lawyers, executives, can be broke if they only have one source of active income and a mountain of liabilities. This cycle is reinforced by emotions. Fear drives people to work harder, desire pushes them to spend more, and the more they earn and spend, the deeper they fall into the trap. They may look successful on the outside, but they're financially fragile. A single job loss, health crisis, or market downturn could unravel everything. Kiyosaki argues that escaping the rat race begins with financial education and mindset. You must stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like an investor. Instead of asking, "How much can I earn?" start asking, "How can I build something that earns for me?" The rat race isn't about how much you make, it's about how much control you have over your time and money. What the rich do differently, building assets and leverage. If the poor and middle class work for money, the rich build systems that make money work for them. The core difference lies in how each group defines and uses the concept of an asset. Most people misunderstand this word. They think their house, car, or job title is an asset. But according to Rich Dad, an asset is something that puts money into your pocket, whether you're working or not. This single definition changes everything. The rich focus their time, energy, and money on acquiring income-generating assets. These include things like rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, businesses they own but don't operate, and intellectual property like books or online courses. These assets generate passive income, money that flows in without constant effort. Poor Dad would say, "Bash, buy a house, pay off your mortgage, and climb the ladder." Rich Dad would say, "Buy a property that pays you every month." Let your assets buy your house. Another key difference, leverage. The rich understand how to multiply their efforts through systems, people, and capital. Instead of relying solely on their own labor, they build businesses that employ others, invest in assets that grow on their own, and use debt strategically to acquire appreciating assets. Where most fear debt, the rich use it as a tool for expansion, not consumption. For example, instead of saving for years to buy a home in cash, the rich might use borrowed money to purchase an income-generating property, then let the rental income pay down the loan while building equity over time. That's smart leverage. This mindset shift from consumer to investor, from spender to builder, is what separates long-term wealth from short-term income. The rich don't chase higher paychecks. They buy their freedom with assets that generate wealth around the clock. Mindset shift, how to start making money work for you. Understanding that the rich don't work for money is one thing, but applying it requires a full mindset shift. Most people have spent years thinking like employees, focusing on earning, spending, and saving. To break free, you have to start thinking like an investor and creator. You must stop asking, "How much can I make per hour?" and start asking, "How can I build something that pays me forever?" The first step is recognizing the difference between an asset and a liability. Rich Dad's definition is simple. If it puts money into your pocket, it's an asset. If it takes money out, it's a liability. That means your house isn't necessarily an asset. Your car definitely isn't. And most of what people buy, gadgets, clothes, even some education, can't be counted as assets. Start small. Can you build a product once and sell it many times, like an ebook or digital course? Can you rent out a spare room? Can you invest a portion of your income into something that grows, like dividend stocks or a small real estate deal? These small shifts are how passive income begins. Next, invest in financial education, not just more hours at work. Read books, watch interviews, take courses, learn how money moves and how the wealthy think. If you don't know where your money goes each month, you can't control it. If you don't understand your taxes, you're losing money by default. The more financially literate you become, the less dependent you are on a single paycheck. And finally, surround yourself with people who challenge your thinking. If everyone around you believes working hard at a job for 40 years is the only path to success, it's going to be tough to do things differently. But when you're around builders, investors, and thinkers, your habits start to shift. Making money work for you isn't a dream, it's a decision. It starts the moment you stop chasing paychecks and start building something that pays you back. Rule 2. Learn financial literacy, not just academics. Why academic education doesn't teach wealth? Most people grow up believing that doing well in school will lead to success in life. Get good grades, graduate from college, and you'll land a stable, high-paying job. That's the story we're told. But Robert Kiyosaki argues that this academic path, while important in many ways, does not prepare people to become financially independent. In fact, it often traps them in financial insecurity despite their education. Traditional schools teach reading, writing, math, and science, but they rarely, if ever, teach money. Students can graduate knowing how to solve algebraic equations or analyze Shakespeare, yet have no clue how to manage debt, read a financial statement, or understand the difference between an asset and a liability. Kiyosaki saw this firsthand with his poor dad, who held advanced degrees and worked in education. He was intelligent, respected, and hard-working, but he struggled financially. He believed that if he just earned more or got another degree, things would improve. But income is only one part of the equation. Without financial literacy, more income often leads to more spending, more debt, and more stress. Rich Dad, by contrast, had very little formal education, but understood how money worked. He knew how to create and grow assets, how to minimize liabilities, and how to keep more of what he earned. His lack of degrees didn't limit him because he was fluent in the one subject that schools ignore, finance. This is why Kiyosaki says academic intelligence doesn't equal financial intelligence. You can be a doctor, lawyer, or engineer and still be broke if you don't know how to manage money. At the same time, someone with a modest job and strong financial habits can slowly become wealthy. The lesson is clear: being smart isn't enough. You need to be financially smart. And that's a subject you have to seek out on your own, because school won't teach it. What is financial literacy and why it's essential? Financial literacy isn't about how much money you make. It's about how well you understand and manage the money you have. It's the ability to read numbers, evaluate financial risks, understand the flow of money, and make decisions that grow your wealth instead of shrinking it. Robert Kiyosaki defines financial literacy as the ability to tell the difference between an asset and a liability and to act accordingly. That may sound simple, but very few people actually do it. Many high-income earners are deeply in debt because they confuse income with wealth and spending with success. Being financially literate means understanding a few key things: cash flow, income statements, balance sheets, taxes, and debt. You don't need a degree in accounting or finance, but you do need to know how money moves and how financial decisions today impact your future freedom. For example, if you take out a loan to buy a car, is that a good decision? A financially literate person would ask, will this car make me money or cost me money? Does it generate income or does it create a new monthly expense? These questions are at the heart of smart money management. Financial literacy also includes knowing how to protect and grow your money. That means understanding compound interest, investment basics, diversification, and the risks of inflation. It means knowing how to use credit wisely, not just avoiding debt, but leveraging good debt to build assets. Kiyosaki emphasizes that you must learn to read numbers like a second language. Numbers don't lie. They show you exactly what's happening in your financial life, whether you're growing wealth or going backward. Ultimately, financial literacy gives you control. It allows you to make choices with confidence. Without it, you're financially blind, no matter how much you earn. The hidden dangers of being financially uneducated. Most people don't think of financial illiteracy as a danger, but it is. It silently drains wealth, limits choices, and keeps people trapped in stress-filled lives, no matter how hard they work. Robert Kiyosaki warns that what you don't know about money can hurt you far more than what you do. One major risk is confusing income with wealth. Many people assume that because they earn a decent salary, they're financially secure. But without knowing how to manage, invest, or protect that money, they can lose it just as quickly. High income does not guarantee financial health, especially when expenses and debt rise just as fast. Then there's bad debt. Loans taken for things that don't produce value. Credit cards, luxury items, vehicles, and more. Financially uneducated individuals often fall into the trap of using debt to fund lifestyle rather than leverage growth. This results in paycheck-to-paycheck living, even for high earners. Another danger is not understanding taxes. Most people have no idea how much of their money is lost to taxes, or how to reduce their tax burden legally. The rich use corporations, deductions, and strategic structures to keep more of their earnings. The poor and middle class, unaware of these tools, end up paying more because no one taught them how the system works. There's also the risk of missed opportunity. Financial illiteracy keeps people on the sidelines when it comes to investing. They fear the stock market, avoid real estate, and don't understand the basics of business. As a result, they let years go by without building assets, while others create wealth through calculated risks and informed decisions. Perhaps the greatest danger is relying on others to manage your financial future, employers, banks, or even spouses. Without financial literacy, you give away your power and place your security in someone else's hands. Kiyosaki's message is simple. If you don't control your money, someone else will, and they won't manage it in your best interest. How to build real financial literacy and apply it daily. Becoming financially literate doesn't require a finance degree or a background in accounting. It starts with a simple shift, treating money as a language you need to learn fluently. Just as you would study a new subject or skill, financial literacy is built through intentional practice, curiosity, and daily decisions. The first step is to educate yourself consistently. Read books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The Millionaire Next Door, or The Psychology of Money. Follow reputable finance channels on YouTube or podcasts where successful investors share insights. The more you expose yourself to real financial thinking, the more naturally it will start to shape your choices. Second, track your money. If you don't know where your money goes each month, you can't grow it. Track income, expenses, assets, and liabilities. Use a simple spreadsheet or a finance app. This helps you see patterns, cut waste, and make more conscious spending decisions. Next, start building small habits that reinforce good financial behavior. Save a percentage of every dollar you earn, no matter how small. Pay yourself first before paying bills. Invest a little each month into a diversified portfolio or an index fund, even if it's only $20. The goal is to build consistency and confidence. You also need to challenge your beliefs about money. Were you taught that money is hard to get, that rich people are greedy, that talking about money is impolite? These beliefs can quietly sabotage your ability to grow wealth. Financial literacy includes rewiring your mindset to believe that money is a tool for freedom, not something to be feared or worshipped. Finally, apply what you learn. If you read about assets, go identify one. If you learn a new way to budget, test it for 30 days. Real literacy comes from action, not theory. As Kiyosaki says, knowledge is only potential power. Applied knowledge is what builds freedom. Rule 3. Mind your own business. What it means to mind your own business, beyond the job title. When most people hear mind your own business, they think of staying out of other people's affairs. But in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki uses it quite literally. He means stop focusing entirely on your employer's business and start focusing on your own financial foundation. Your real business isn't your job title, it's your asset column. Kiyosaki noticed early on that most people spend their lives building someone else's dream. They climb the corporate ladder, chase raises and promotions, and dedicate decades to organizations that they don't own. Meanwhile, their own financial life remains weak or dependent. They might earn a high salary, but their bank accounts tell a different story. Rich Dad taught him, the wealthy don't confuse their job with their business. A job is a way to generate income. Your business is what you own, build, and control. It's the assets you acquire, the systems you set up, and the income streams you create that don't depend on someone else's payroll. This rule is especially important because many people think the solution to financial problems is simply earning more money. But earning more from your job won't create long-term wealth unless you're also building something of your own in the background. That something could be real estate, a small business, dividend stocks, intellectual property, or anything that puts money in your pocket month after month. The trap is comfort. A job provides routine and stability, but it can also create dependence. The moment you lose it, your entire income vanishes. The rich build security through ownership. They mind their own business quietly, consistently, and with long-term focus. The difference between your profession and your wealth-building engine. Most people confuse their profession with their path to wealth. They believe their job title defines their financial future. But Robert Kiyosaki makes a sharp distinction. Your profession is what you do to earn a living. Your business is what builds your freedom. Your job may provide income, benefits, and stability, but it rarely leads to financial independence on its own. That's because a job, no matter how prestigious, is still active income. It stops when you stop. Your true business, the one that matters, is the collection of assets you build outside your job that continue paying you regardless of where you clock in. Kiyosaki saw how Poor Dad spent a lifetime building a strong resume and climbing the career ladder. But despite promotions and raises, he never gained financial control. He had no portfolio, no business, and few assets. He was always one paycheck away from pressure. By contrast, Rich Dad taught that the wealthy focus less on income statements and more on balance sheets. They track what they own. They grow what produces income over time. Their business isn't what's printed on a business card. It's in their investments, intellectual property, systems, and companies. This is why many people with average jobs quietly become wealthy. They live below their means, funnel money into assets, and gradually build something that replaces their job income. Meanwhile, others who earn six figures stay broke because they never mind their own business. They only mind their employers. Kiyosaki's rule is not to quit your job overnight. It's to stop relying on it as your sole path to success. Use your profession to fund your business, the one that grows in the background while you work. How the rich build assets quietly, while others climb the career ladder. While most people focus on career advancement, promotions, salary bumps, and job titles, the rich are quietly building asset columns. They may still have jobs or businesses, but their primary focus is on growing income-producing assets that work independently of their time. This doesn't mean the wealthy ignore their careers, but they understand that a job is just one income stream, and usually the least scalable one. So while others measure success by job titles, the rich measure it by the strength of their balance sheet, what they own, what it earns, and what it costs them to keep it. These assets can take many forms. Rental properties that generate monthly income, dividend-paying stocks that produce passive returns, small businesses or partnerships where others do the day-to-day work, intellectual property like books, patents, or online content, royalties, licensing agreements, or digital assets that scale without labor. Most people never get started because they think assets require large amounts of money or special skills, but the rich know that assets can start small and scale. A $500 investment, a basic ebook, or a one-room rental can evolve into a consistent income stream. The key is starting and staying consistent. While co-workers focus on buying the newest phone, the rich buy shares of companies that make those phones. While others finance liabilities, the rich acquire assets. And often they do it quietly, without flashy purchases or public announcements. This slow, steady growth eventually surpasses even high-paying careers. Over time, the assets begin to replace job income entirely. That's when true freedom begins, not when you earn more, but when your assets pay you more than your boss ever could. Practical steps to start minding your own business today. Understanding the principle is one thing, putting it into action is another. Kiyosaki makes it clear you don't need to quit your job or start a company overnight to mind your own business. Instead, begin by building your asset column quietly and consistently while still working your day job. The first step is to track your personal finances like a business. That means knowing exactly what comes in, what goes out, and what you own that actually earns you money. Keep a personal balance sheet, identify your assets and liabilities, get clear about what's helping you grow financially and what's holding you back. Next, allocate time and money each month to grow your own business. This might mean investing in a rental property or learning how to, putting a portion of your income into dividend stocks or index funds, starting a simple online product or service that can generate side income, writing, creating, or building intellectual property you can license or sell. The key is to start small and grow from there. You're not trying to get rich overnight. You're shifting your identity from employee to owner. And ownership comes through assets, not hours worked. Also, treat your job as a tool to fund your business. Instead of upgrading your car or apartment when you get a raise, use that extra income to buy your first income-producing asset. The rich get ahead because they resist lifestyle inflation and use surplus income to build leverage. Finally, schedule regular business meetings with yourself. Time to review your goals, assess your net worth, and plan your next move. Just like a real business, your financial life needs attention, adjustment, and growth. Minding your own business doesn't require wealth, it builds it. All it takes is intention, patience, and the discipline to focus on building your future, not just someone else's. Why taxes were never meant for ordinary people. When most people think of taxes, they see them as an unchangeable part of life, like gravity or aging. But Robert Kiyosaki challenges that belief. He argues that taxes, as we know them today, were never originally designed for the working class. In fact, they were introduced with the promise that only the rich would pay them. In the early 20th century, when income taxes were first introduced in the United States and other countries, governments told citizens it was a temporary measure, only targeting the wealthiest people to fund war efforts or infrastructure. The general public supported it because they believed it wouldn't affect them, but over time that changed. Once the government realized how powerful a steady income stream was, the tax system expanded, and it began to hit the middle class the hardest. Kiyosaki says this is one of the greatest financial sleights of hand in history, convincing people that paying more tax is patriotic, responsible, and permanent. The truth is, the tax system is complex, full of loopholes, and built in favor of those who understand it. And most people don't. Rich Dad taught Kiyosaki that while poor and middle-class people pay taxes before they see their money, the rich often earn and invest through legal structures, like corporations, that allow them to pay expenses first and taxes later. That one shift in order, expenses before taxes instead of after, makes a massive difference over time. The problem isn't just the percentage of taxes people pay, it's the lack of awareness about how the system really works. The average person files taxes once a year, hopes for a refund, and never questions the structure. But the wealthy study tax laws, hire experts, and play the game by the real rules, the ones that aren't taught in school. How the rich use corporations to protect wealth. To most people, a corporation is just a big company, but to the rich, a corporation is a powerful legal tool, one that creates flexibility, protection, and massive tax advantages. Robert Kiyosaki learned this from his rich dad, who explained that corporations are not just for the elite, they're for the educated. A corporation is a legal entity that can own property, make contracts, and earn income. But here's the critical difference. When you're an employee, you earn money, pay taxes, and then spend what's left. When you own a corporation, the order flips. The company earns money, spends it on business expenses, and pays taxes on what's left over. That subtle shift in flow, earn, spend, then tax, is one of the most powerful wealth-building advantages available. Business owners can deduct expenses like travel, education, equipment, insurance, and meals if used for legitimate business purposes. Employees, on the other hand, get taxed before they see a dollar. Kiyosaki explains that the wealthy don't just make more money, they know how to keep more of it. Corporations help protect assets from lawsuits, allow for better retirement structures, and give access to tax planning strategies most individuals never see. It's not about evading taxes, it's about understanding the laws and using them legally to your benefit. Another advantage, corporations separate your identity from your business. That means if the business is sued or takes on debt, your personal assets can remain protected, assuming the entity is set up and managed properly. Rich Dad encouraged Kiyosaki to learn how corporations work, not just how to get a job. The goal wasn't to become a lawyer or accountant, it was to understand the game of money at a higher level, because the rules are different at the top and corporations are how the rich stay in the game. The rules of the financial game and how they favor the informed. One of the most uncomfortable truths in Rich Dad, Poor Dad is this: the financial game is not fair, but it is learnable. The wealthy play by a different set of rules, and they win because they took the time to study the system most people blindly follow. Most working-class people are taught a simple formula: earn income, pay taxes, spend what's left. This is automatic and invisible. It happens through payroll deductions, routine bills, and habits passed down by generations. But the rich operate with a different formula: earn through a corporation, deduct expenses, invest the difference, and minimize taxes legally. It's not cheating, it's strategy. Kiyosaki emphasizes that the tax code is not a punishment, it's a set of incentives. Governments use tax breaks to encourage behaviors they want more of: job creation, housing development, investment, innovation. And the people who understand this use the code to their advantage. Those who don't simply pay full price. Here's the difference. An employee makes $100,000, pays $30,000 in taxes, and lives on $70,000. A business owner earns $100,000 through a corporation, spends $40,000 on business expenses, marketing, travel, training, and pays taxes on what's left. Same income, very different outcome. It's not just about taxes either. Wealthy people use legal structures to limit liability, separate personal risk, and build intergenerational wealth. They don't wait until tax season to think about money. They plan ahead, consult advisors, and take an active role in managing their finances year-round. Kiyosaki's message is clear. If you don't learn the rules, you will always lose to someone who has. You don't need to be rich to start, you just need to be curious and committed to learning how you can apply these principles without being rich. You don't need to be a millionaire or a corporate executive to benefit from the tools the rich use. You just need to be willing to learn the rules of the game and apply them intentionally. Robert Kiyosaki emphasizes that financial knowledge, not wealth, is what gives you access to better choices and greater control. The first step is to understand your tax situation. Start by learning how your income is taxed. If you're an employee, know your tax bracket, your withholdings, and what deductions you might be missing. If you have a side hustle or freelance income, learn what qualifies as a legitimate business expense. Even a small business, done part-time, opens the door to a completely different set of tax advantages. Next, consider starting a simple legal structure, like an LLC or a sole proprietorship, if it fits your situation. Many people dismiss this as unnecessary, but the benefits go beyond taxes. It can help separate personal and business finances, open the door to business credit, and allow you to deduct costs related to your work, from software and marketing to training and even a portion of your home office. Third, start keeping records like a business owner. Save receipts, track income and expenses, use apps or spreadsheets to stay organized. This habit alone can save you thousands and prepare you for smarter financial planning in the future. Most importantly, adopt the mindset of an owner. Look at the world through the lens of leverage. How can you spend money more efficiently? How can you build systems that work for you? How can you learn from people who legally pay less and keep more? You don't need to cheat the system, you need to understand it. The rich aren't winning because they're cheating, they're winning because they learned how to play the game better. And so can you. Rule 5. The rich invent money. What it means to invent money, it's not about printing it. When Robert Kiyosaki says, the rich invent money, he's not talking about counterfeit bills or tech startups creating crypto tokens. He's talking about the mindset and skill set that allows the wealthy to create opportunities where others see none. The rich don't wait for the perfect job, the ideal investment, or permission from anyone. They understand how to spot undervalued opportunities, act fast, and turn knowledge into income. To invent money means you're not confined by what already exists. Instead of saying, I can't afford it, the rich ask, how can I afford it? Instead of waiting to be hired, they think, how can I create value and get paid for it? That's the essence of financial creativity. It's not about being reckless, it's about being resourceful. This idea is deeply connected to financial education. The more you understand how money works, the more ideas you see. Kiyosaki often says opportunities are everywhere, but most people aren't trained to recognize them. That's why two people can look at the same situation, say a struggling property or a new business trend, and one will see a burden while the other sees a gold mine. The rich don't rely on luck. They rely on preparation, meeting opportunity. They invest in learning, build networks, and move fast when the moment is right. Inventing money doesn't require being born into wealth. It requires learning how wealth is created and being bold enough to act when others hesitate. How the rich see opportunities others miss. Most people are trained to look for security, not opportunity. They search for stable jobs, predictable incomes, and safe bets. But the rich, those who invent money, have trained their minds to spot opportunities hidden in plain sight. Where others see problems, they see potential. Where others hesitate, they act. Robert Kiyosaki explains that wealth is often created not during times of prosperity, but during moments of uncertainty and change. While the average person tightens their budget and avoids risk, the financially educated ask, where is the new opportunity? What is undervalued right now? What's the trend everyone's ignoring? This mindset is built through education and exposure. The rich aren't necessarily smarter, they're more aware. They read market signals, pay attention to new industries, and talk to people solving real problems. They understand that value is created by solving problems, and the bigger the problem, the greater the reward. For example, while most people complain about rising rent prices, a wealthy thinker might look into buying a duplex, house hacking, or investing in a real estate syndicate. When the economy shifts and people panic sell assets, the wealthy often step in to buy because they see temporary fear where others see disaster. Kiyosaki calls this the power of financial vision, being able to recognize income potential where others see dead ends. And this is something anyone can learn. It starts with curiosity, builds through experience, and grows stronger every time you act on what you see. The rich don't wait for permission to succeed. They've trained themselves to see cracks in the system, small gaps where money flows, and they move through them. Opportunities are everywhere, but only those who are looking, really looking, can see them. The role of financial education in making bold moves. Many people assume the rich take more risks because they're fearless, but that's not true. The wealthy take calculated risks, and they do so confidently because they're financially educated. According to Kiyosaki, education reduces fear. When you understand how something works, you're no longer paralyzed by what might go wrong. You're empowered by what could go right. Financial education doesn't mean you'll never make mistakes. It means you'll recognize opportunities faster, know how to assess them more clearly, and recover smarter if things go sideways. It gives you the tools to take bold action, because bold action without knowledge is gambling, but bold action with knowledge is strategy. This is why the rich can invent money. They've built mental frameworks for spotting patterns others miss. They understand concepts like ROI, return on investment, leverage, liquidity, and timing. They can look at a deal, whether it's real estate, a business, or a stock, and quickly determine whether it's worth pursuing. Most people are trained to seek permission from banks, bosses, or institutions. The rich train themselves to create solutions and capture value. Financial education shifts your thinking from dependence to resourcefulness. You begin to ask better questions. You start looking for overlooked assets. You stop thinking like a consumer and start thinking like a builder. And perhaps most importantly, financial literacy helps you manage emotions. Fear and greed drive most poor financial decisions. When you're educated, you're not as easily shaken by market drops, bad news, or hype. You stay grounded in numbers, patterns, and long-term thinking. Kiyosaki's advice isn't to blindly invest or take wild risks. It's to learn first, then act fast. The rich don't get rich just by taking action. They get rich by taking the right kind of action, guided by knowledge. Training your mind to think in terms of possibility and value. Inventing money isn't about having more resources, it's about learning to see differently. The rich train their minds to look for possibility and value, even in situations that seem ordinary or uncertain. This is a mindset anyone can develop, regardless of income or background. The first shift is to move from scarcity thinking to opportunity thinking. Scarcity says, there's not enough, or I can't afford that. Opportunity thinking asks, what could I create here? Who could I serve? How could this be used differently? The rich don't ignore risk, they just balance risk with imagination and information. Second, they build the habit of asking better questions. Instead of what's the safest option, they ask, what's the smartest risk? Instead of can I afford it, They ask, how can I create the cash flow to afford it sustainably? These small shifts train your brain to focus on solutions instead of limitations. Another key is to stop seeking permission. Many people wait for someone to tell them it's okay to start a business, invest, or launch a project. The wealthy understand that value isn't granted, it's created. If you have an idea and it solves a real problem, you don't need credentials, you need action. And finally, inventing money means believing in your ability to learn and adapt. You won't get everything right, you'll make mistakes, but each action you take sharpens your instincts, expands your awareness, and gives you real feedback. Kiyosaki reminds us that the poor and middle class often think they need to work harder, but the rich know the secret is to think better. Money follows value, and value begins with how you see the world. Rule 6. Work to learn, not to earn. Why chasing a paycheck limits your growth. One of the most powerful shifts in Robert Kiyosaki's philosophy is this. The purpose of work is not to earn more money, it's to learn how money works. Most people get stuck because they only focus on getting paid. They chase higher salaries, better job titles, and secure positions. But in doing so, they often miss the real opportunity, growing skills that create freedom. When you work only for a paycheck, you stay trapped in a cycle of trading time for money. Every raise might feel like progress, but it also reinforces dependence. You still rely on someone else to determine your value, your schedule, and your future. Even worse, you're likely developing skills that only serve that one job or company, not your long-term wealth. Kiyosaki says this is exactly what happened with his poor dad. He had degrees and promotions, but he never learned how to create or grow assets. He worked hard his entire life, yet financial stress never left him. Rich Dad, by contrast, encouraged learning over earning. Didn't care how much Robert was paid, he cared what Robert learned at each stage. Skills, not salaries, were the path to independence. This mindset is critical if you want to escape the rat race. The question isn't what job pays the most, it's what job or business will teach me something I can use forever. That could mean learning how to sell, negotiate, lead, market, or manage money. These are the portable skills that apply across industries and eventually to your own ventures. To grow wealth, you must grow capability. And to grow capability, you must sometimes choose the job or path that teaches more, not pays more. That's how the rich think. And that's how they build a life where money works for them, not the other way around. What skills the rich focus on and why they matter more than degrees. Formal education rewards people for following rules, memorizing facts, and working alone. But the skills that lead to financial independence are very different. Robert Kiyosaki emphasizes that the rich focus on developing practical, versatile skills, the kind that help you solve problems, influence others, and build wealth. Here are some of the most valuable skills the rich deliberately learn. First, sales and communication. No matter what field you're in, your ability to sell an idea, a product, or even yourself will determine how far you go. Sales isn't about pressure, it's about solving problems and creating value. Communication is the foundation of leadership and business. If you can't express your ideas clearly, you'll always rely on someone else to do the talking and the earning. Second, leadership and people management. The rich rarely build wealth alone. They know how to lead teams, inspire collaboration, and delegate. Leadership is a learned skill, and it multiplies your impact. Kiyosaki says a strong leader can turn an average idea into a successful business, while a weak leader can ruin a great one. Third, investing and financial strategy. This includes understanding how money grows, how markets move, and how to assess risk. Financially literate people don't just save, they know how to put their money to work. They understand assets, cash flow, tax advantages, and long-term planning. Fourth, marketing and storytelling. The rich know how to capture attention. They learn how to position ideas, build personal brands, and make people care. In today's world, marketing isn't just for businesses. It's a critical skill for anyone who wants to stand out and scale. Kiyosaki stresses that these skills are often overlooked in traditional education, but they're essential for anyone who wants to build wealth. You don't need another degree. You need to master the skills that create leverage, the power of cross-functional learning, and how to develop it. In school, we're taught to specialize, focus on one subject, one major, one path. But in the real world, especially when it comes to wealth building, those who succeed often have a wide range of skills that overlap. Robert Kiyosaki calls this cross-functional learning, and it's one of the most underrated principles of personal growth. Rich Dad encouraged Robert to learn across departments, industries, and roles, not to become a master of everything, but to understand how all the pieces of a business fit together. Why? Because the more you understand the full picture, the more valuable and adaptable you become. For example, someone who understands both sales and accounting can better evaluate a business's true performance. A person who knows marketing and tech can launch a product faster and more effectively. Someone who's worked in customer service might become a better manager because they understand people. The rich don't just learn vertically, they learn laterally. They move from finance to sales, from operations to branding. Even if it means starting over or taking a short-term pay cut, they understand that temporary discomfort leads to long-term leverage. This is especially powerful for entrepreneurs. If you want to own your own business or manage investments, you need to know more than your main skill. You need to understand contracts, taxes, team building, and even negotiation. You don't need to be the expert in every area, but you need to speak the language. So how do you develop this range? Take roles that stretch you, not just ones that pay more. Shadow people in other departments or volunteer for cross-functional projects. Read outside your comfort zone. Learn about fields you don't yet understand. Start something small like a blog, a product, or a project that forces you to wear many hats. The richest people are rarely specialists. They're connectors, translators, and decision makers. And that ability comes from learning across, not just deep. How to choose work that builds your future, not just your income. Most people choose jobs based on salary, perks, or location, but the rich choose based on what the role will teach them. Robert Kiyosaki encourages us to think of every job as an investment, not just of time, but of skill building. The right position can pay dividends long after the paycheck is gone. Instead of asking, "How much will this job pay me?" ask, "What skills will I walk away with?" Will you learn how to manage a team, negotiate deals, handle cash flow, sell under pressure? If so, the value of that experience may far outweigh a slightly higher salary elsewhere. This approach is especially useful early in your career. Many of the world's most successful entrepreneurs worked jobs far below their earning potential because they wanted to learn how a business operated, how customers behaved, or how money moved. They knew that the real wealth was in the knowledge. Choosing work that builds your future also means embracing discomfort. Growth rarely happens in easy, predictable environments. Look for roles that stretch your capacity, push you to speak up, or force you to learn things quickly. These are the experiences that shape decision makers and wealth builders. If you're in a job now, don't panic. Start where you are. Ask yourself, what new skill can I develop here? Is there a problem I can volunteer to solve? Who can I learn from on this team? What side project or freelance work would teach me something valuable? The goal is to shift your mindset from working for income to working for insight. Over time, these insights compound. They give you more control, more confidence, and ultimately, more freedom. In Kiyosaki's words, job security lasts as long as your boss says it does. But skills, those are yours forever. Conclusion and key takeaways. What the rich teach their kids, and most people never learn. Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad is more than a book about money. It's a blueprint for changing how you think. Through 6 foundational rules, he shows that wealth is not about working harder, having a high income, or earning more degrees. It's about understanding how money works and learning to make it work for you. Let's briefly revisit the 6 rules that can shift your mindset and your future. Rule 1. The rich don't work for money. The wealthy don't chase paychecks. They build assets and systems that generate income even when they're not working. Instead of trading time for money, they trade value and strategy for freedom. Rule 2. Learn financial literacy, not just academics. Being book smart doesn't make you financially free. The rich focus on understanding cash flow, assets, liabilities, and how to make money decisions that lead to long-term growth, not just short-term comfort. Rule 3. Mind your own business. Don't spend your life building someone else's dream. While you work a job, build your own business or asset base on the side. Your real financial engine should be something you own, not something you're hired into. Rule 4. Understand taxes and the power of corporations. The system favors those who understand the rules. The rich legally reduce their taxes, protect their wealth, and create leverage by using entities like corporations. It's not cheating, it's knowing how to play the game. Rule 5. The rich invent money. Opportunity isn't found, it's created. The wealthy see possibilities where others see problems. They act fast, think creatively, and use financial education to take bold, calculated risks. Rule 6. Work to learn, not to earn. Every job is a classroom. The rich choose work that teaches them high-value skills, sales, investing, leadership, marketing, so they can eventually stop working for others and start building for themselves. Final words. You don't need to be born into wealth to become financially free. But you do need to think differently, act strategically, and take responsibility for your future. The rat race ends when you stop chasing money and start learning how to build it. Wealth starts not in your bank account, but in your mind. And the moment you shift your mindset, everything else begins to change.